Hi, I'm Nicole Formosa. I'm here with Travis Engel and Ryan Kleek. We're at the 2018 Bible of Bike Test in Marquette, Michigan. Today we rode the Trek Fuel EX 9.929. And this is a bike we've tested before. We tested it at last year's Bible as well, but we put it back in the lineup because there's some new technology in this particular model that hasn't quite trickled down yet, but it's the through shaft.
Mm-hmm. So Trek's kind of known for having cool little gadgets on their, especially rear shocks. Recently we saw Reactive, which is essentially a platform valve. You set the little blue lever in the trail mode or the middle mode, whatever, and the force that it takes to break that platform free is a lot less than other models. Basically it means you could have kind of a platform to push against, but when you hit the slightest bump, it opens right up.
And it works really well.
We were pretty impressed with it. Like, it's not a gimmick. I mean, a lot of this Trek stuff, we kind of always have to like break the fourth wall and say, this is not just a gimmick. These shocks work really well. Through shaft, basically, when shocks have damping, there's an assembly that gets pushed through a pool of oil, and that assembly gets pushed by a little shaft. That shaft gets introduced to that pool, and when you introduce things to a pool, the water level goes up. So the way shocks deal with that is they have an internal floating piston, essentially to keep the volume of oil constant. And what that means is that there's this little pocket of air and a piston that when the shock compresses, this piston moves up and down. It does a couple things. There's this little bit of extra stick. And also, you don't get as direct of an impact of the oil into that damping mechanism, which is especially important on reactive, when really the quicker that impact, the quicker it opens up. So if you followed all of that, congratulations. If you didn't, you can click back and listen to it again, and it may make a little bit more sense.
You really need to ride it, I think,
yeah.
is the bottom line.
Right. Yeah. So riding it, I was pretty impressed with how it works. It's not a gimmick. It works really well. What do you guys think about the suspension on its own on this bike?
Through shaft is only, this is the only model of the Fuel EX it's on right now, which is the top of the line 9.9, $8,500. So it's a pricey bike. I expect that technology will trickle down, but because it's top of the line, it's also super light. It's 26 pounds without pedals, and you really felt that on the trail, I think. Right. I mean, just really climbed really well, floated up and over technical terrain. I mean, I just thought this was such a great climbing bike.
Right. You know, this bike's got 29-inch wheels. It's 130 travel front and rear, and over the different generations of the Trek's ABP suspension, I always found that to work the best in their longer travel bikes in descending. I thought it was an incredible descender. And however, when you were climbing, you pretty much always had to rely on a pro pedal lever or some sort of platform lever to keep it as efficient as possible. So having this, the new Reactive with the through shaft, where you just pretty much run it in that middle setting all the time, really simplifies that for the rider. So you know it's going to be efficient uphill, and as far as no unwanted movement really from the rider induced, and then yet it'll break free and be active to track the terrain when you descend. So it seems like it's a win-win.
I thought this was solid on pretty much all the terrain we rode. You know, the technical bits, the high speed, kind of rocky but not super steep sections, and the steeper sections. I mean, it seemed to perform pretty well everywhere. It just felt like a bike to me.
Yeah.
You know, like you get on it, it's a solid trail bike. You don't have to
Exactly.
tinker a bunch. It just rides really well everywhere.
Exactly.
And as we commonly say with bikes that are just a bike, this is a balanced bike. It's 130. It's not one of these reverse mullet bikes that we see. And I think that kind of is true to this bike's mission. Like, it's not meant to be some brawler only for people who are thrashing. It's something that kind of can do everything.
Yeah. I mean, this thing it flies uphill, you know, on par with like an XC bike, and yet you can ride it pretty much as hard as you want on the descents, on technical descents, because it is so capable. And
this is where I'm going to dissent on the descent. I'm going to say that I didn't feel like I could ride it as hard as I wanted. Now, granted, I rode it next to a lot of these reverse mullet bikes.
Yeah.
I mean, the standout bike for me is the Norco Sight. So the Norco Sight's 130 rear, just like the Trek Fuel, but 140 front, which is, I think, what this bike really deserved. That is my take on it. This bike is so capable, that lightweight makes it so fun to throw around. I feel like it deserved a little bit more travel in front. And that we kind of had some disagreements about that.
Well, I just think if you look at what it's designed, it accomplishes what it's designed for. And you know, Trek is based in the Midwest. It's based in Madison or near Madison, and I feel like it's the perfect bike for the trails here in
Right.
Marquette. Probably the trails in Trek's backyard, which I've ridden once, but I feel like it would be perfect for those trails. I don't think it's not trying to be anything other than what it says it is.
And along the lines of that versatility, it has some really nice flip chips in it. You can run it in low, you can run it in high. I ran it in low this whole time, and it didn't really affect the climbing
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, I agree. I ran it in the low setting primarily just because I thought that might cater to kind of the type of riding I felt like doing. And, you know, I just kind of, when I looked at it, I'm like, well, I know this bike, what it is. It's extremely agile, balanced front and rear suspension. And
Conservative,
I took,
probably.
yeah, and I-
It's not trying to be too.
but I was also aware
different.
of that. For what it is, I thought it was just, you know, top to bottom, just an incredible package.
Definitely, except the dropper post. I will say for that much money, I would prefer a 150 dropper. The medium comes with a 125. You know, it's not that the house brand is not the best dropper you can get, and
Yeah, for spending.
I don't know. Maybe it's nitpicky, but I wouldn't want to have to buy anything new for
Right.
that amount of money.
Well, there's also the fact that Treks tend to have this dog leg pretty high in the seat tube, so on the medium, maybe a 150 dropper wouldn't even fit.
Maybe.
So I think that's something to pay attention to if you're looking at this bike, is if you really want a long dropper and you're not 6'2", see if you can fit a 150 in there.
However, you know, I mean, for what its intended purpose, for what it's designed to do, I mean, good luck finding a bike that can compete at this level, in my opinion.
So it's a spendy bike, but it's got Trek's newest shock technology on it. That's likely to trickle down in the next couple years to some lower price models. But we wanted to review this bike to bring you the information on Through Shaft. Thanks for watching. To see the rest of the Bible videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel.